Welcome back to the second installment of 3 jobs every man must do before he is 20 years of age. So job number 1 was being a waiter. I went over a couple of things, and this is now job number 2. So I believe, and this is actually 2 jobs in one, but they're kind of the same sector, so I've included both of them. I have had both of these jobs. One being a call center, work in a call center, and the second in retail. So when I was working in the call center, we were selling electricity and what else was there? I think there was like gas, basic utilities. That's what it was. Bullshit telemarketing. And when it came to retail, I worked in a shopping mall in our local mall in Sheffield called Meadowhall, and it was a shop called USC at the time, which sold like not your Primark kind of clothes if you are watching this in America, Target, or some lower tier kind of clothes, but this was like middle tier. So this wasn't your Hugo Boss, and in fact, no, they did sell Hugo Boss. What am I about? Look, I'm not a big fashion fucking guy. I don't know. Just your middle clothes. Not your cheap clothes, not your expensive clothes, your middle clothes. That's what they sold. And a lot of people did come there. It was a very, very busy shop actually at the time. I believe it was one of the biggest shops in Meadowhall. Hence why they were hiring. It was Christmas period. We was at college. I believe I was 17 at the time, and we needed money. It was the summer holidays. And we're like, yo, we need some money. Sorry, no, it wasn't summer holidays. It was Christmas. And we were like, let's go and apply. So we all applied. There was about 5 or 6 of us that applied. We were just walking around Meadowhall one day. We applied, and they were like, next day, I think it was email. Yeah, they emailed us. You all got the job. We all turned up to work. And it was good. It was fun times. Most jobs have been fun for me because I've kept them fun. And same with the call center, that was pretty basic. A friend of mine worked there, got me in, did the training. I thought, this is fucking dog shit, but it's money. So like the restaurant job, number 1, pay is shit. Just in retail and telemarketing, the pay is absolute dog shit. It is literally the, minimum wage, whatever you get. And they're always going to say if you do X amount of sales, not in retail, but if you do X amount of sales in telemarketing, then you can slowly build up your wage, which is, as you know, a pile of shit. So don't believe it. So that's the first thing, get that out of the way. It teaches you, again, money management. We've already been through that. Second thing, hours are shit. Same again as the restaurant. I was a shit, but the difference here is I wasn't at school now, I was at college, and I hated the fucking hours. They told you when to be on time. It was like, what the fuck? I need to go to the gym. I've got shit to do. I didn't really have shit to do, but you know what I'm trying to say? When you're a kid, you always seem to not have enough time. So it was like, Saturday, fuck, I'm working 8 hours on a Saturday, I'm working 8 hours on a Sunday, what the fuck? And there was nothing you could do about it other than call in sick if you wanted to go out with the lads, or if you, just called in and said, oh, I'm not turning up today. There was all sorts of excuses that you could make. So, time-wise, you are treated like a slave. They just need to fill that time slot. They need X amount of people on the floor. That's it. You've got to fucking do it. And same with the call center. They tell you when to come to work, when to clock in, when to clock out. Those days, you had like a little card. I don't know how it is nowadays for work. We used to have, what was it now? It was like this little card. And very old school system of doing it. Had your name on it, and you kind of punched it in, and then it printed the time. So it was in 15-minute slots. So you had to get to work 5 minutes, or let's say, at least 5 minutes early. You punched it in, so it clocked in, because remember, there's a queue now. So there's a queue of people trying to get there, so everyone's trying to punch in. So you had to get there at least 5 minutes early, and you had to punch out after the time of when your shift ends. So if your shift ended at 8 p.m, you didn't leave at 8 p.m, you had to queue up and punch out after 8 p.m. It could be 8:10, 8:15 by the time you left. So yeah, you're just treated like a slave. Shit hours. Same again. But here's the things that I learned from those jobs. Telemarketing is a funny one, because when someone's on the other end of the phone, you don't know who they are. You don't know what they look like, how old they are, or anything. You just know the name. The name's in front of you. Or sometimes if it's inbound, you haven't got a fucking clue who they are. I think just an address pops up and that's it. And you get on the phone. You've got to be quick. You've got to adapt to that person's tone of voice. You have a telemarketing tone of voice, but I found it best that if I adapted to that person's tone of voice, it was more better. To give you an example, there was an old lady speaking. I couldn't speak in a normal tone of voice like I would to a guy who was 30-year-old. So it taught you to change levels. So when there was a female 80-year-old woman speaking on the phone, or you thought was an 80-year-old woman, there was a way that you needed to speak to her. So it's amazing that these normal people who work in these places don't ever pick up on this, and they stay exactly the same tone of voice for every single customer. And I watched it. Guys used to sit next to me, either side, and when they answered the phone, it was the same fucking tone of voice every single time, no matter who they spoke to. And me, I was smart enough to realize, you know what? I need to speak to people the way they're speaking to me. That's how it was. Great example for this, when you go to Turkey on holiday or anywhere on holiday. I mentioned Turkey because recently, or even Thailand, when a Thai person speaks to you, their English is very broken up. Now you have to cut out words for them so they can understand you better. Like if you're in a taxi, you don't say, "Hi mate, can you take me to the mall? I want to go to the M Mall." You don't say that. You say M Mall, so the guy understands, and you change your tone of voice to make it sound like their English so they can understand better. Same with if you're in Turkey, anything you want to order, you don't say, "Hi mate, yeah, can I get the steak medium well?" You don't say that. You'll say medium well steak. You see, that is a skill that many people to this day don't know, and it's basic communications. If you don't know how to communicate with people, you're never going to get anywhere in life. So I feel that's a big thing. To change the tone of voice is fucking amazing. You need to learn to do that. And in the retail, same again. People come to you, "Excuse me, mate, can I get a large in this, or is there a medium in this?" Sometimes, let me tell you something as well, how I used to deal with it. When someone used to come to me and say, "Excuse me, pal, is there a large in this?" And I already know there is no large. Do you know what I used to do? I used to say to the person, "Hang on a minute, sir, let me check." I used to grab the t-shirt off him, so whichever it was. So if it was like a Diesel top, I remember at the time, Diesel was a big brand those days. Diesel, and he handed me a medium, I need to go and check a large. I used to waltz to the back, sit in the back, sit down, and someone's like, "What are you here for?" There's always a guy in the back collecting all the sizes. I'm like, "No, it's the same t-shirt. There's no large. I know there's no large. I don't need to ask you again. I'm just going to chill here for a minute." I used to chill there for a minute and come back out. "Sir, ever so sorry, mate. There's no large." "Oh, thank you very much." And do you know what that did? That did two things. One thing it did for you was made you, active. So you walk to the back, you walk to the front, you're doing something. You're not just, it passes time. That takes 5 minutes or something. So the shift goes a little bit quicker. And that guy isn't thinking he's a prick. He's thinking this guy went to the back, came, handed me the shirt and said, "I'm ever so sorry, we don't have that size, but there's another t-shirt." Oh, but I wasn't getting commission for this, but it doesn't hurt to be helpful. That is the one thing I learned. Even though I was getting a shit wage, it wasn't their fault. The customers had nothing to do with this. I helped the customers the best I could. I made it almost a challenge. Someone said, "Oh, have you got a 9.5 in this pair of trainers?" Let me go and check. Let me go and fucking figure this out. And even if I couldn't find it, I used to rummage around thinking, maybe I might find this guy. And often I did. If you put a little bit of effort into things, sometimes people misplace stuff. So I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a box of trainers like this, and there's maybe 30 boxes. The person before you was too lazy to put them in order. So rather than putting the 9s over here, they put the 9s over here. So they started from 7, 8, 9, but the guys looking for trainers would be like, 9, let's have a look if there's a 9. They'll go to 9, no, don't see it, it's not there. They'll go out and tell the customer there was no 9. Me, I was like, let me just check. There's only 20, 30 trainers here, I'll just check them all. So I used to look down at the bottom, no. Shit, there's one right there. Someone accidentally put it there. And like I said, when you're doing a job, try to do it to your best of ability if it means pleasing the customer. But the right customer, don't always fucking do it. You get what I'm trying to say? You've got to know when to turn that on and when not to. always so that it benefits you. And it's good for the soul as well. It's good for you to actually go out and help people. So that was my little trick that I always used to learn, I always used to do. Anyone came to me, do you have this? And if I fucking knew it wasn't in stock, I'd be like, let me go and check. And it's just a nice fucking thing. You've helped the person out, and it's good. I know you could argue it's wasting their time, but it's not. Trust me, if you stood there and went, no, we don't have it in stock, the person would be like, the guy didn't even fucking go and check. And he's not thinking, oh, he probably checked and someone already asked him. That's just the way it works. Always be nice. So you need to learn those things. So another thing that you learn when you are doing these jobs, and that is politics. Fucking dirty politics in the workplace. This is a fucking big one. You need to learn how people, because you think, right, when you're working in a company and you are on minimum wage, and there's 20 of you at the start of the shift, there's 20 of you and there's one manager. You think we're all on the same fucking wage, so we must all be on the same page, right? That rhymed that. So when you go on the shop floor, or you're at your desk on your fucking computer or whatever it is, and you just think, sit back a little bit, I can't be arsed with this, I'm just going to have a chat to this guy over there. Some fucking job's worth down there, some brown-nosing job's worth over there, is gone to the manager to complain. Faddy's not doing this, Faddy's not doing that. These two are having a chat. What the fuck is it to you, bro? It's not your company. You ain't getting paid overtime. And even if you do make it to the manager position, which I know you never will, what are you going to be on? 50 pence more? £1 more per hour? Is that it? Is that all you're doing this for? You're going to lose dignity. You're going to lose respect in front of people who you are on the same level with to try to be, to try to police us because we're doing something that you didn't think was right. Absolutely bullshit. And that is one thing you've got to be very, very wary of. So when you speak to certain people on the floor, especially if you're a new person, like when we started work, you're always the new person. You're always the new guy. Don't tell everyone everything. Sit and observe who's who. Which factions are together? Those guys are together. That guy's going out with her. The manager's shagging that guy. Okay, yeah, I see what's happening. You're going to see groups. You're going to need to be very observing of everything that's going on around you to know who to speak to and who not to speak to. And you need to try and build your own clan within that group. So I had a group of guys, group of girls when I was at USC who were like under my wing. I wasn't no manager. I wasn't a manager at all. But I knew I've got to keep a team. I've got to build a team. And same when I was at the call center, it was like, right, hang on a minute. I can recruit this guy. I can recruit that girl. I can recruit him. And if there was no reason other than just to make sure I had a team of people around me who could cover for me. Because when I was late, 5 minutes after the break, no, Faddy was here. He just went to the toilet, So these things, you need people. You need to build a faction. You need to build something. I know these tactics are like, people think, what the fuck is this guy on about? I'm telling you, when you're working in those slave jobs, make sure you build a team. And always tell them that we are going against the authority over here. They're paying us shit. We're getting paid dog shit. Those guys are fucking creaming it. That's how you should be. Always hate the boss. Always hate the manager, especially in those massive companies. Now, I've had guys working for me at one time, had 20 staff, even more actually. But yeah, let's say 20 staff, 20 members of staff working underneath me. I was a good fucking manager. I was a good owner. I was never the manager, but I was the owner. I was a good fucking owner. And out of all the partners, there was like 4 partners. I was like the top. I was the guy who started the business. Everybody bought into it. So I was the main man, but I was good. I was likable, and I made sure I kept everybody in check the right way. And you have to be very generous to your staff. You have to be very polite to your staff, from the cleaner to your right-hand man. You got to treat everybody with respect. So I was a different kind of owner. But when I see owners coming in there, waltzing in and out, not making eye contact, not speaking to the cleaner, or not even making you're a new fucking member of staff. They don't give a fuck. Then you know what? You shouldn't give a fuck. Or use a slave job to learn some skills and get the fuck out there. Okay, so the next one is, like I said, I'm writing them down over here in case I don't miss any. So backbiting is another one I just mentioned as well. Be very, very wary of it, especially in those workplaces, because if you need that job, especially if you need the money for that job, then you need to build a team. You need to build a faction. And don't talk bad about anybody other than the authority. And you have to make sure that everyone on your team has got the same mindset. And it's very, very difficult to find people like that, but you can mold people. And there's ways to do it. I'm not going to go over it in this video, but there is 100% many ways to get people on your side. You know, when you have a common enemy, that person is your friend. And that is where you need to start if you're trying to build a faction within a company. So managers, another thing as well, talking about managers over here. Most of the managers, especially in retail and call centers, walk around with a big chip on their shoulder. They've got a massive, ego. And all they are really is just a good slave in the system. That's it. That is all they are. They're still in the system. They're still part of the system. You're a slave. And they're a slave, but they're just a good slave. They're an obedient slave, a slave that just says, yes, master, what's next? Whereas you need to rebel a little bit because you know you ain't there long term. You're just there to see what a job's worth 9-to-5 looks like. That's all you're there for. Now, if you want to be one of those people for the rest of your life, that is also okay. There is nothing wrong with that. I'm not here to tell you that everybody should go out on their own and have their own business. If you want to be a 9-to-5, if you want to be, okay, I'm not going to say jobs worth. You want to do that? There's tactics for that as well. I'm not here to tell you those tactics. There's 100% tactics. Number one is build a faction. Within that team, you need to build a faction so that the company that you're going for, you should at least be able to become the manager or take that company over. There's ways around that. Again, like I said, it's not something I've ever done. But if I was to go and work at McDonald's, I could guarantee you in 6 months, I'd be the manager. Here's another thing about McDonald's. Let me tell you something about McDonald's. You know when you was at school or in a group of friends or someone's taking the piss, this guy's going to never amount to anything. He'll just get a job at McDonald's. Like working at McDonald's is fucking shit. Okay, let's say it is. Everyone who works at McDonald's, let's say they're a bit thick, they're not going anywhere in life, they're just working there. They're just time passing geeks and freaks. That's all they fucking are. Okay, let's say that is true, which it is true to a degree, it is true. Put someone like me in McDonald's, right? Someone who's ambitious and someone who's fucking a go-getter. If I go to McDonald's, I'm going to be fucking bringing out these burgers. I'm going to learn exactly how to do it. The managers at McDonald's, if you notice the managers at McDonald's, they're just the guys who've been there the longest. They ain't the most cleverest guys. They ain't the most smartest guys. They just hung it in there. I will be able to be on a manager's position in McDonald's in 6 months because I'll graft hard. Every single person, the manager, whoever, the stars you get, I don't know how you work your way up in McDonald's, but it's easy because you're working with people who have no ambition, zero ambition. If you want to put it like that, if that has the stigma of people who work at McDonald's have zero ambition, let's say that is true, which it is true, but let's say it's not, but let's just say it is kind of thing. You're going there with everything. You're armed. You've got all the fucking armor. You've got the sword. You've got the spear. You've got everything ready. You're going in there and those people are just weak, limp, lazy, can't be arsed with life. And you're going to go in there and you're going to try and make it to the top of the field. In that game, you will be at least area manager in 9 months. And you'll be at top of the food chain in 12 months. I could guarantee you. I ain't got time to do that kind of shit, but I'd love to. If I had time for 12 months, go undercover, work at McDonald's and prove it that I could be at the top of the ladder in 12 months. So sometimes don't knock jobs like McDonald's because if there's people working there ambitionless and you have a little bit of ambition to go there and get on that 60k, 70k, 80k salary, because McDonald's does fucking pay good, if you're at the top. I know some people in Tesco who are just stacking shelves getting paid good P. But now if you're a manager at Tesco, that's fucking decent. Now you're an area manager at Tesco, you're regional manager at Tesco. Now you're on some good fucking P, you're a 9-to-5er. So being a good slave sometimes isn't bad. It just wasn't for me. Like I said, there's tactics for that, but that's not for this video. I'm going to teach that later on. But for me, I just haven't got one of those slave mindsets. I just can't sit there. I can't have someone authoritative working over me, bite my tongue and be like, oh, fucking hell. Okay, just another fucking 6 months to slog along. I ain't one of those guys. So definitely not for me. Now, going back to the workplace, the retail and the call center workplace. Lunch breaks. Lunch breaks are very, very important. Let me tell you why. So when I was working the retail lunch breaks, there was like 2 shifts on lunch breaks, whereas like half the team go now and then half the team go in an hour later. When you go on lunch break, you will often see the fat people bringing their own snacks or eating absolute garbage from the vending machine. Fucking dog shit. For me, I was a healthy guy at that time. I was 17-year-old. I could eat whatever I wanted. I was getting a Subway at lunch, McDonald's at lunch every single day. KFC didn't really matter to me, didn't faze me. I was one of the fittest guys there. But I used to see slobs sat there eating crisp coffees, chocolates at lunchtime every single day, and they look like fucking whales. So that's another thing as well. When you work in those kind of environments, you can observe which people have got it together and which people haven't. Diet and what people eat says a lot about someone. And you can always see the guys having the chocolate, having the crisp, having this, having that. The second they get back to work, they have a crash. There's a big slump. Massive fucking slump, because people get lazy, people get tired, people aren't alert. I'll give you a little story about this actually. I play poker quite a lot. Not so much now, but I used to play. You can say, if I say I didn't have a job and I played poker for 4 years, and that was my only way of living, for 4 years I played poker, you can say I was professional. If I'm only earning money from poker to pay for my car, pay for my insurance, pay for my rent, pay for my food, it was all from gambling for 4 years. So yeah, for 4 years I was a poker professional, or a gambling professional, you can call it that if you want. But that's what I did for 4 years straight. Now during that time, there was something, what we learned in poker, where when there was a break in poker, people often went to the toilet, or they had some food, they ordered some food and they sat down and they ordered the food, they have the big meals. And poker's a long game, it can take 10 hours minimum for one tournament, literally for one tournament. Not cash, wasn't a big cash player because cash can get pretty crazy. Although I play a lot of cash now, I don't play many tournaments, but tournaments was the gig that I used to like. So when the break used to happen, people used to come back, they've had the chocolates, they've got the food in front of them and they're eating. And that is when people got knocked out the most. And the reason being is because when you're playing poker, you need to stay sharp. Your cognitive ability needs to be like this, alert. Everything needs to be fucking razor sharp focus. So I used to snack while I was playing poker, just some peanuts at the time. That's all I used to have on me. And if I needed to eat, I was eating keto only. That's all I did, fats and carbohydrates. So I never hit that carb slump. When someone had a sandwich next to me, more often than not, this was literally no joke. We used to have a couple of lads and we used to be like, right, he's going to get knocked out soon. Because they started playing shit. When they had that carb crash and they were a bit tired and the eyes started shutting a little bit. Remember, this is 4, 5, sometimes 6, 7 o'clock in the morning you're playing poker. And they're just knackered and everyone's a little bit fucked anyway. And they had some food. More often than not, you could predict this guy's going to make a bad decision. He's going to make a bad call and he's about to get knocked out. And that was a very good time to start playing a little bit looser, knowing that these guys are going to make some shit calls to get them knocked out. So what people eat, you should always observe their diet. And especially when you're working with somebody, what they're doing and how they're living is very, very important to you, especially if you want to get in front of them, you want to get ahead of them. Or if you're just trying to observe, like me, at that time I was just trying to figure it out. I'm like, what is it? What drives somebody to have a bag of crisp every single lunchtime? Like, why do they fucking need that? They're fat as fuck. That crisp is doing zero for them. It tastes good for like 20 seconds and that's it. Why don't they go to KFC, get some fried chicken and just eat the chicken? You're in a mall. There's not much selection. There wasn't no grilled food those days. Even Subway I don't even think was open at the time. But let's just say you just get fried chicken. Just eat fried chicken. That's good enough. If you can't get anything, just eat fried chicken. But no, they didn't have it in them to be just a little bit disciplined at work. So that is very, very important when you're working. Watch out on the lunch breaks. And especially on the lunch breaks, you can always see little factions. Who sat together, especially in the call center. We used to go out at the back. There was a little canal. Who sat together? Which people are talking? Why is it someone who's on my slave wage, why is she sat with the manager? She flirting with the guy? How's she talking? How's the guy talking back to her? So be very, very alert to what is going on in the workplace. That's why working in a call center and working in retail is very, very important. So, and the last point I've just mentioned, or I need to mention over here, is be observant to who is doing overtime. And that comes down to the same thing. What is the end goal for that person? What are they trying to do? What are you going to learn for that? Do you want to sit there and do overtime and this person's on exactly the same wage as you? I'll be honest with you. Here's how it works. If, for example, I wanted a pay rise or I wanted to get ahead in this company, I'd turn up 20 minutes early before the manager and I would be the last one to leave that fucking workplace every single day. I'd come in on my day off, maybe bring some chocolates for the staff or the manager, mainly the manager, not the staff, fuck the staff, the manager, sweeten everybody up. So you've got to be very, very observant of that. And if you are in a position that if you're not like me and you're not gonna quit that job and you want to stay in that job, you have got to keep everybody sweet. Now, I'm not saying be a brown noser. I'm not saying do that kind of shit. There's a technique to it where you can keep your dignity as well. Gifts go a hell of a long way. People will never forget when you give them a gift because people don't receive gifts often enough. Gifts are very, very important. Give you a classic example. When I was living out in Thailand, I normally book hotel accommodation. So I live at a hotel apartment. So it's not a hotel room, but it's a hotel apartment. They're a bit more luxury, a bit more nicer. Yeah, they're a bit expensive, but they're nice. So I know I'm going to stay there for 1 month at a time, and then I hop around. I do a month here, I do a month there. That's how I normally live. So I know these guys are going to be in and out my room because I like to get my room cleaned every day. I'm going to need stuff at night time. I'm going to have parcels dropping off. I'm going to have people looking for me. I'm just going to need shit happening. That's just the way it is, okay? I might have a friend coming over. So rather than signing them in and doing all the bullshit, they'll just be like, oh, it's that room 401. Okay, yeah, we know the guy. He's all right. Something as simple as it's a hot day. You're going back to the hotel for the first night or the first day. Get some ice cream. And I'm thinking, how many staff was on that day? Oh, there was 4 staff. Okay, I'll get 4 ice creams. It's 50 pence an ice cream. 50 pence. It cost me £2. I got 4 ice creams, 1 for myself. 5. Walked in. Said, guys, I know it's a very hot day. There you go. There's 4 ice creams. Boom, 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 boom. They were buzzing. Wow. How many guests in a hotel bring ice cream? Fucking none. 0. You will be the first person that will never forget you. And you know what happened on this occasion? There was a 5th member of staff, which I missed. And I was like, shit. I said, I tell you what, mate, tomorrow I won't forget you. So me and him had a joke the next day. Don't worry, I'm going to bring you the ice cream. I went over, I bought the ice cream. I came back again. Me and him built a nice rapport. And he was actually one of the guys who used to drive the, there's like a little transport thing that they have in each hotel to just drive you around. And anytime I needed to get about, if I didn't have my moped somewhere, I needed to go and pick it up from the night before, the guy used to go and fucking take me. All because of what? I bought him a 50 pence ice cream. And I'll tell you another thing. There was other people staying in this hotel apartment and they used to walk through the hotel reception and the staff was like, hello. The guy used to open the door, very polite, head down. The girl bringing the coffee over used to bring it over to him like this. And I was observant of all this. But yet, and these guys stayed just as long as me, like it's only a month at a time you can book these places, sometimes even more. Some of these people have been staying there for 6 months. But the 1 month that I was there, all the staff were like my best mates. Everyone was chilling with me. If the girl brought the coffee over, she'd sit down and have a chat. The reception guy would be chatting. Oh, did you see? Obviously, the football was on at the time, so England had lost, and we talk about the football. We'd have a little bit of banter here and there, and it's just basic things like that you need to know. So when you're in a workplace, going back to like that's a life lesson there. If you're staying in a hotel, always take them something back. If you're in a hot country, take them back some ice cream or just something. Do not give them leftover food. Don't be fucking a dickhead. Don't give them leftover food. With your leftover food, give it to the people that sleep on the street. That's perfectly fine to do that. But for the hotel staff, have some respect. Always try to get people what you're having. So if that particular day I was having a Magnum, I bought 5 Magnums. They're not that expensive, bro. I'm guarantee you. And when the cleaner's cleaning your room, she's going to give it that extra little bit of an effort. I'll be honest, when I'm in hotel rooms, I'm having a shit. I had a bit of a technical issue there. I think the camera just cut off. I don't know where I was, but the point I was trying to say is when it comes to the restaurant, you need to observe people for how good they are. But when it comes to the workplace, like the call center or the retail, You need to observe people for how shit they are and how conniving they are. The group dynamics that are formed, you need to be very wary of this so you can see any attacks coming against you from all angles. I know it sounds really crazy saying this. This is just a normal workplace, but literally do that job for 4 months. You're going to pick up so many skills through those 2 jobs. If you like content like this, please subscribe, like the video, and comment down below the first few jobs that you guys had or any jobs that you recommend. And there's one more in this series that I'm going to release in a couple of days. Can anyone guess what that 3rd job is going to be?